Everybody, this is welcome to the Pt16. We're Phillip and Laura Baker, and as always, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for joining us and spending some time with us. We're really always honored. People all over the world watching the Pt16, and man, it just thrills us to just be able to hang out with you and share some things and sow into your life. And you are definitely good ground to sow into.
Absolutely.
If this is the first time you're watching us, we're Phillip and Laura Baker. We're evangelists. We're in over 50 churches a year. Happiest evangelists you know. We love God's kingdom. We love God's churches.
Absolutely.
Love God's people. And everything we do, make no bones about it, we do it in the mighty, wonderful, incredible, holy name of Jesus Christ. We're Jesus people.
Jesus people. And
Having
one
a
of the
Jesus
things that
day.
one of the things that we love so much and to be able to teach on is marriage. Listen, marriage, it is absolutely, positively a journey. When you get married and you say, I do, it's not over. It's just starting.
Absolutely.
You are just beginning down that path. And so that's our goal. That's our heart. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
You know, no one has ever arrived. We are constantly, you know, I'm amazed. We just celebrated 34 years, and every once in a while, he'll say something. He told a story the other day that I'd never heard. 34 years. I didn't think that was possible anymore, that you could tell something that I didn't know.
I got all kind of stuff. Got all kind of stuff.
But, you know, it's a journey that you go on together. And I just want to encourage you, you know, some people are watching this, and maybe you're watching it as a couple. That's our heart. That's what we're hoping that you're doing, that you're watching this as a couple, and you were saying, let's get a hold of something, let's go
Church
farther.
is using it as a Bible study.
There we go. That would be great. But, you know, there's some of you that are watching it by yourself because your spouse won't watch it, or you don't have a spouse, or you've had a bunch of spouses. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's getting these principles inside of you, getting a desire to have that godly marriage. Listen, the Bible says God gives you the desires of your heart. And so when that becomes a desire, He's going to bring things across your path to get you there.
Absolutely.
That's what the path's all about.
Absolutely. Well, you know, in the Path TV, we cover, and we are covering, and we're going to continue to cover so many different aspects of marriage. But right now, we're on a series. We're looking at probably around 20 episodes. We're 3 months worth. You go, oh my gosh, what in the world are y'all talking about? We're talking about finances. We're talking about the blessed marriage.
Yes.
God's heart is that your marriage be blessed to be a blessing, that Abrahamic covenant. But that's not going to happen by accident. It's going to have to happen on purpose, for a purpose. And so we're just taking it step by step, inch by inch, and we're just talking about that whole world of blessing and finances, because one of the main reasons for so much strife and bitterness and divorce and marriages is financial pressure. And so and we're living in a world right now that knows how to heap all that on.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about the blessed marriage, and we've been talking about these 4 words that changed our life. And we spent a couple of episodes talking about the first word, God's grace, we believe.
We believe. What do you believe?
It's not because we're so good, it's because God's so good.
That's right.
But it really comes down to, what do you believe when it comes to finances? What, you going to believe what somebody told you? You're going to believe the word. Number 2, our faith. We speak. What comes out your mouth is important. Life and death are in the power of your tongue. Your life follows your word. Got to speak into the mountain. Genesis 1, God said, God saw. We could talk about it all day, and we spent 2 episodes talking about that. But then the last episode, we began talking about the third word. Number 1, God's grace we believe. Number 2, our faith we speak. Number 3, stewardship, we plan. Plan. Come on, the Lord our God, He teaches us how to prosper. We've been talking about a plan. God's a God of glory. He's a God of signs, miracles, and wonders. He's a God of love. God is love, 1 John 4. But He's a God of stewardship. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how much grace there is. I don't care how much faith there is. You're not going to violate laws of stewardship and live a blessed to be a blessing life. We said it in Matthew 25. If you're not faithful over little, God's not going to make you faithful over much.
That's right.
If He can't get it through you, He's not going to get it to you. Come on, if you're not, if you got to know something about stewardship. There's got to be a spirit of excellence about you. God's not going to bless your mess.
That's right. This is your part. This is what God is requiring of you. Yes, He requires that you believe. Yes, He requires that you speak. But this is your part that you do the action. And listen, God's a God of action. He's a God of order, but He'll give you the order, but it's up to you. He cannot do it for you. He does not live on this earth paying your bills for you. He doesn't live on this earth doing investments for you. He doesn't.
Right. I mean, if you got more going out than you got coming in,
right,
you're violating the laws of stewardship.
Right.
Right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing that and we talked about it in the last episode, because we talked about the things that have affected or have given you knowledge, the things that have really molded you in how you do your finances.
Right.
We talked about that the last time. We talked about your parents, what you saw, what you didn't see. Maybe some of you grew up and you had these great parents that taught. We know a couple of parents that do that, and that are just really teaching their kids about investing and about saving and about how to be good stewards. If you grew up with that, praise God, most people didn't. We didn't grow up with that.
We sure didn't.
Then you got the world. The world will teach you how to stay in debt, because the world's not interested in God's plan. The world's not interested in doing anything God's way. The world wants to teach you, hey, you can have what you want right now, just go get it.
Yeah.
Go buy a whole house full of furniture because you got a young couple that just got married.
Yeah.
And they see their parents and they go, look at everything they have. I want all of that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize their parents have been married for 30 years and have been accumulating and working. And
what took them 30 years to get, you have the ability to go get tomorrow with debt.
With 20% interest, 30% interest, with no payment for 6 months, no payment for a year.
Yeah.
You can look up. The world's taught us that. And then you've got, then the last thing that you've got is what you've learned and what you've read. And the thing is that we're taught, like, we're not taught actually in school. We're not taught. I mean, we're taught algebra, we're taught geometry, and that's great. We're taught, solve for X, which, hey, I don't know if I've done that a lot in my life. But what we've got to be taught is, little Johnny, if you have 4 apples, you can't give away 10 apples.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we've got to. That's where we've got to be.
So just think about this. All over the world, some of the smartest people in this world are sitting in a room right now, thinking up ways to keep you more in debt, so you spend the rest of your life paying interest and making them multi-millionaires and billionaires.
Billionaires, right?
How do you feel about that? Does it make you mad? I mean, they're sitting in rooms right now just a thinking. They thinking. Smartest people in the room, they thinking. How much thinking are you doing? When it comes to your finances, your life, your family, your future, come on, are you out thinking them?
They're planning.
They're planning. They're strategizing. They're thinking. They come on.
Stewardship.
They finding who else can we get in this room? We need some smarter people.
Right.
We got to get this world in more debt, paying more interest, because I want a bigger yacht. I want a 10th home.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Huh? We come on, this is what we're talking about. Now, let me ask you a question. How would you like it if God showed up in your home and said, I'm going to take everything good you've got and I'm going to multiply it, and everything bad you have, and I'm going to divide it and subtract from it? And that would be great. We would, come on, just to be more specific. God says, okay, give me all the money you got. And He just multiplied it, and the next thing you know, your hundreds of dollars is thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds. Oh, come on, God's the God of multiplication. God, come to my house.
Right.
Take my checking account, multiply it. Take my savings account, multiply it. Multiply all my good, so I can be blessed to be a blessing. Man, well, I sure would like the God of multiplication to show up. Well, there's a field in Israel where the God of multiplication showed up. It's in Mark the 6th chapter, and Jesus had been preaching all day, and about 5,000 men followed Him out into the wilderness, and there's 5,000 men. There was probably a couple of thousand women and children,
Absolutely.
And the Lord said, give them something to eat. 7,000 people, give them something to eat. What do you mean, the disciples, what do you mean give them something to eat? If we had a lot of money and went and bought a bunch of bread, you'd only give them a morsel.
Right.
I mean, come on now, Jesus. He said, what do you got? And they looked around, and all they had was 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Come on, I know you know this story. You're with me, aren't you? You're with me. Ooh, Brother Philip, I like that story too. Jesus took 5 loaves and 2 fishes and fed everybody. The God of multiplication has landed.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
The eagle has landed. He took 5 loaves, 2 fishes, multiplied it, and fed thousands. Please show up at my house. All right? But there's something we miss here. And we're gonna talk about this story later on. We're gonna have a whole episode just on the revelation that's in this story. But I want to point one thing out here. In verse 39 and 40, he commanded them to make them all sit down, have them all sit down by companies upon the green grass. Verse 40, and they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. How long do you think it took 12 dudes to get 7,000 people seated in ranks of 50 or 100? I'll wait. Come on, Jeopardy. Do. Think that through for a moment. How long do you think it took 12 disciples to get 7,000 people seated, just seated, and then in ranks of 50 or 100? And the whole time Jesus is up on that mountain, he's got 5 loaves and 2 fishes right there, and he's saying, he got a little southern in him. I ain't multiplying nothing until everybody's seated in ranks of 50 or 100. I'm not blessing their mess. I'm not blessing chaos.
Ooh.
Until there is order. Order. I'm not multiplying nothing. There's stewardship right there in the middle of that story. There's a spirit of excellence right in the middle of that story. There's order right in the middle of that story. We all want to see blessing. We all want to see provision. We all want to see multiplication. We all know what we want God to do for us, but we're violating laws of stewardship. We're a mess. There's no order. We're not faithful over the little, and God's not going to make you faithful over much. You got to get things in order. And listen, God does His part. You go, well, I'm waiting on God. No. God's waiting on you to get things in order. To stop violating these laws of stewardship. To get a hold of some excellence and do the best you can with what you got. God's doing His part. He's waiting on you to do your part.
That's good.
And so I want you to take a look at your home. I want you to take a look at the area where you do your finances.
Yeah.
I want you to do how you do your finances. And I want you to ask yourself, is there order here? Am I being a good steward? Or is this an absolute mess and I'm expecting God to multiply it? God don't work that way. He's waiting on you to get seated in ranks of 50 or 100. Ooh, we got some more to talk about. But this is what we want to do. We're going to take a moment because there's a book that we wrote, and it's called The Build. The Build. Leadership builds God's churches, ministries in your life. And if you're out there somewhere in the world and you want to leave the kingdom better than how you found it, you want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, one day, you want to get to the end of your life and know you mattered, you made a difference, you're going to fall in love with this book. And so it's at philipbaker.org. You can get it on Amazon Prime. But check this out, and we'll be back in about 60 seconds. Welcome back to The Path. Again, we're Phillip and Laura Baker, and you're going to love The Build. It's going to get you building, and it's going to build you. So just go over to our website, check it out, Amazon Prime. And also, while you're at our website, make sure you sign up for the Daily Move. It's free, just your name and email, and every morning you'll get a little move. I call them moves. They take about 10, 15 seconds to read, but they'll get you moving.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of media there. Make sure and check out our itinerary, pictures of our family, you know. You can make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the episodes of the Path TV are there. All right. Hey, we're talking about having a blessed marriage. And we've been talking about 4 words. God's grace we believe, our faith we speak, and stewardship we plan. And right now we're focusing in on that stewardship part. God does His part, but we got to do our part. And so Laura's going to take us into some real nuts and bolts when it comes to stewardship that we all need to hear.
That's exactly the words I were going to use. It's just now getting down to the nitty-gritty of it all. Because what it really comes down to is you've got to start. You may be in the middle of it, but you got to go back and get your foundation set. And that's what we're talking about. I want to talk to you a little bit about budgeting. You know, budgeting is not a dirty word. You know, when you get up and you start, and I've taught this so many times, and you get up and start talking about budgeting, people start to cringe.
They don't like that word.
I don't like that word.
Order, obedience,
No,
stewardship.
budgeting, I don't like all that.
Those words are icky.
And they kind of have a connotation with them that's constraining. Listen, let me give you my favorite definition of budgeting. It is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. You ever done that? You know, I know you've done it. You ever walked into Target and you only went in there for one thing, 2 things, and you come out and you've got bags of stuff, and you're like, well, I didn't go in there for all this. How did I end up doing that? That's your money telling you where it's going to go. That's not you telling your money where it needs to go. That's what budgeting is, telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. You break that $20 bill in the store, it's gone. It's absolutely gone. So, number 1, you got to know where you're starting. You need to sit down and look at your assets. What are you starting with? What do you have? And when I say assets, I'm talking about things that are yours. You know, that are yours. A car's not an asset if you owe $25,000 on it. It's not an asset. It's actually a liability. So, gather together things and learn and ask yourself. Write it down. What do I own? What are assets? What are things that are mine? Number 2, number 3 actually, income. What is your income? And you might say, well, people know their income, but not everybody does. Some people have set incomes, and some people have variable incomes. And so, because you're trying to get a picture of what your finances look like, you're trying to get a picture. So the first thing we did is see what you have that's asset. And I'm talking about 401ks again. I'm talking about your savings. I'm talking about anything that you have that you could get money for that you could liquidate. Whether it's money, whether it's gold, whether it's silver, investments, whatever it is. If it's yours and you could liquidate it to get money, there you start with that. Number 2, you got to know what's coming in. If you don't know what's coming in, and maybe you've got to put yours and your wife's or yours and your husband's together. Maybe you have to estimate because it's not a set amount, it's a variable amount. Well, you've got to have something that is a concrete amount. So if you have a variable income, what is your base variable amount?
Right. And
you can go from there. The next one, you got to know what your expenses are. Do you have it written on paper? Do you know what has to go out every month? I'm not talking about Starbucks or going out to eat. I'm talking about things that you have to pay. You have to pay rent, mortgage, cars. You have to pay for some groceries. You have to pay for utility bills. Most of us have phones. You've got to pay things that you are going to have to pay no matter what just to live.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be able to have that picture. Because if you're in debt, we're going to talk about that later.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah. But right now, you're just gathering a picture. So you've got all of your assets. You know what your income is now. Now you know what your expenses are.
It's like we're getting everything on the table to look at.
Absolutely.
We're getting a good view of everything.
And a lot of people don't do that out of fear.
They don't want to know.
They don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what we have going out every month.
Head in the sand.
Yeah. And that really comes into play when you've got a lot of debt.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah, don't tell me. Right. Don't tell me. Okay, and then let's talk about goals. Because when we've got this picture on the table, let's talk about some goals. Because, you know, you're seeing this, and sometimes when you're talking about budget, you think that I'm asking you only to pay your bills and to save every penny, never to go out to eat, don't ever go to Starbucks, don't ever get any new clothes, don't ever buy anything. That's not what a budget is. Remember, a budget's telling your money where to go. Each of us have different values. I tell you, one of the things that's valuable to us is, and it's not negotiable, is we tithe. We're tithers. We don't miss tithes. We're passionate about that. That's part of our budget. That's not negotiable. It's actually the first thing that comes off, because we know that when we tithe, we know God's going to bless us.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, so write down so you've got some goals for your future, some things that you want. God doesn't mind you wanting goals, dreams. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's traveling someplace, doing a vacation with your family, vacation with your spouse. Maybe it's going back to trade school. I wrote some things down here. You know, maybe you want to start investment. Maybe you've been, you know, believing God to start a 401k for retirement. What are your goals? Now listen, a goal is going to most likely be achieved when you write it down. So all of this stuff needs to be written down. If it were me, I would do a big board. Just go get you a board and just begin to put a picture up there so that you can see it.
Keep it in front of you.
Always keep it in front of you so that you know, okay, now I know what assets I have. I also know what income is coming in. I know what my expenses are.
Right.
But do some fun stuff. The goals are your fun stuff, okay? Put a picture of a place you want to go or something that you want to do. I've always wanted to finish my degree. Put a picture of that up there.
Yeah, the word's debt-free.
Yes, there you go.
Get those words and get them ingrained in your soul. Debt-free. All things are possible if we just believe.
They are. And if you have that in front of you and you're staring, then that becomes, it has a life. It becomes a life. And when we don't acknowledge things or we don't see things, they can just get swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And they're out there. We know they're out there, but we're not looking at them. And, you know, when you don't have to face things, sometimes, you know, they just kind of get lost. And so you don't want things to get lost. Now, the next thing I want to tell you to do is to find a system. You know, we talked in the last episode how Phillip is not a numbers guy. I'm a numbers person. So you start talking about all this, I get excited.
Yeah.
He is probably bored to death. But I get excited because I'm the numbers person. I mean, I like to make 1 + 1 = 2. He's already forgot the numbers I just said. I mean, that's how it works, you know. So find what works for you. Find a system that works for you. Maybe you're the detailed person like me, you know, and so you want to find a system that's really detailed. That's fine if that works for you. But if you're a person that it has to be super, super, super simple, then find that system that works for you. You can get on YouTube. You can go to bookstores.
You got to research.
There is so much information out there.
Yeah.
You have to find what works for you, because what happens when you don't find what works for you, you won't do it.
Yeah. You go back to this. La, 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 la.
That's it. You'll just go right back to where you were. It's a process that you've got to do. So if you're detailed, find something detailed. If you're simple, find something simple. If you're not a computer person and it's got to be written on paper, write it on paper. If you have to have it on a computer, put it on a computer.
Yeah. You
know, find the strength that's inside of you and do that. And let me say this to couples. Usually you'll have one, most of the time, you'll have one that excels in one area, and find each other's strengths. Don't dump it on just one person. There was a time in our marriage that I carried all of that, and it was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, you've got it. You just know how to do it. It's very frustrating. But he never took over the numbers because that's not his thing, and that's okay. But he came in and he brought vision. He brought goals. He brought all the strengths that he has. And when we linked those up, that's when God moved.
Yeah, it took off. Everything took off for us.
Completely.
When we did it together, heirs together of the grace of life.
Absolutely. And know this, that no matter what system you do, no matter all the stuff we've talked about, you are going to make mistakes. Right. You're going to have months where you go, woohoo, we did it. We hit it out of the park. And then you're going to have months that you go, oh, that may...
Could have done better there.
Yeah, sure, could have done. We may take us a month to get back out of that.
Yeah, you're going to fail sometimes, you're going to succeed sometimes.
Absolutely.
You know, Listen, we know, we're sitting here, we're talking about stewardship, and we know for a lot of people, everything about this is boring. You know, there's this inspirational statement. It says this: champions are not made in the ring, they're recognized in the ring.
That's good.
They became a champion through hard work.
Yeah.
It was just they were just recognized as a champion the night they won the title. Now, whether that's basketball or football or soccer or boxing or MMA, whatever the case may be, you know, when they're playing the game and they win the title, they win the game. That's the fun part. That's the fun part. What we don't see is all the work.
Right.
All the boring. You know, that basketball player sitting there shooting 500 free throws every day. Boring.
Monotonous.
Come on, that boxer getting up at 6 a.m. and running. Boring. Come on, that football player that's in the gym, you know, lifting weights and running stairs. Boring. In every industry, people that are successful, they've learned to master the boring time.
Oh, that's good.
And when it comes to budgeting, you're going to learn how to master this. Hey, listen, and thanks for joining us. We're having fun, and we're going to continue to go down this road. And remember, go over to our website, sign up for the Daily Move, pray about partnering with us, get a hold of the Build. It'll bless your socks off. Go over to our YouTube channel and sign up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the episodes, going all the way back to episode 1. In 2020. All of them are there waiting on you. Subscribe, and every time another episode drops, you'll get a notification. Again, we're just so appreciative. Thank you for joining us. We're gonna stay on this path, and we're gonna get better and better and gooder and gooder. Hey, God bless you, and thank you for joining us on the Path TV.